here we are again with another episode of the Bridging Divides podcast, where we bring you the advice, tools, and resources to help you build the bridge to success. Super excited to bring you Dr. Kyle Strahm today. He is just an absolutely amazing, wonderful, beautiful individual. I met him probably a few months ago. We're at a networking meeting. As you know, I attend a lot of those. Friend of a friend, you know, he'd met and have just kind of gotten to know each other and more about what he does. And he just has some amazing insights into connection with other people and the power of positive thinking and how to deal with emotions and how to navigate that mess that we make for ourselves. More often than not, it's self-inflicted. But I'm super, super excited to bring him today. Kyle,
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me. You know, it's interesting that we met at the networking event and you had somebody tell you that I should be on your podcast.
Yeah.
And we met like very tail end and you were leaving. And so we got to see each other for like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And then you ended up reaching, I can't remember who reached out first,
Yeah.
but what I found was going to networking events is it's so little the amount of people who actually follow up. And it's always a question that I have to myself is, why do these people go to these meetings if they're always never
if nobody connects with anybody?
if they're never willing to actually take the second step of like, okay, we're going to connect outside of this meeting space. So whenever people do and they show the initiative, I'm like, okay, there's something here then.
Yeah.
We'll figure out what that is.
You know, and that's a very interesting point that you bring up too, because I think that so often when we're starting a business or relationship or whatever, we self-sabotage, right? And so it's like, oh, it's not going to come to anything, so I just won't do it. I won't try or whatever, you know? And so one of the things that has been great for networking for me is that I'm actually getting out the door, you know, so that I can do things like this, like my photo booth business, which I've talked to you guys about. You know, all of that has grown so much because of getting out and connecting with people. But you can't stop halfway through. You have to keep going. You have to like actually make the connections with the people that you hear about.
Yeah.
But it can be a little intimidating sometimes.
It is, and I think it differs for everybody probably what the major thing is, but I know that a major part of it for everybody is this like fear of rejection.
100%.
Like, oh, well, if I put myself out there and then they're not buying what I'm selling, then is that a reflection of what I'm selling?
Or of me. Like
and
my core
I'm selling
being.
myself. A lot of people at these networking events are selling themselves.
Oh, 100%.
Because, you know, they all do the same jobs. You're selling insurance, right?
You can get insurance from 1,000 different places.
So you're selling yourself.
Yeah.
And then, so
Not
it's
like that. Not those kind of meetings.
But, you know, it's the fear of what could be holds people back a lot. And
100%.
so it's like this stage that you have to get through of, okay, what other people think is not actually how I feel about myself or the actual truth about things, and be at peace with that.
No, that's a huge limiting belief I think that we all have of the fear of rejection or fear of failure or whatever it is. Just on our last episode, we talked about the three fears that we have. Lewis Howes, very big motivational guy, he wrote a book called The School of Greatness, where he talks about the three fears that keep people from succeeding. And it's the fear of failure, the fear of judgment, and the fear of succeeding of all things, right? Because you succeed at something, there are going to be the people back in your old circle that are going to try to kind of pull you back in, discourage you. When I was in the military, it happened a lot. You know, getting out of the military, oh, you'll never make it. You'll never make as much money. You'll never be, you know, more satisfied with you know, your life as you are right now. It's like, trust me, that is not true. Military's great and I support them, but not the life for me.
Why do you think that happens? That people do that?
I would think that it has something to do with the fear of change, I think. And so it's like, if somebody in their circle, and this could be a very cynical view of this, and obviously people are more complex than just putting them in one box or whatever, but I think for a lot of people, at least on that subconscious mind, someone leaves the tribe and shows that it can be done, and they succeed, all of a sudden, what are the other people doing with their lives?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like, what excuses do I now have if somebody that was right in my circle of influence has now gone on to do bigger and better things?
Yep.
You know, and so I think, and then there's also the fear of going out on your own. And so, but I think that it's mainly an inward thing. When
Yeah.
people try to bring you down, it's not about you.
Yep.
It's about them.
It's a threat to their perception of reality.
100%. Have you seen that? Because you're
that complex. Yeah, for
with,
sure.
with you, right? Like, because so you're a naturopathic physician, right? Went to med school, all the good doctor stuff.
Yeah.
But your the way what you do in your practice is different. And please don't take this the wrong way. Somebody looks at you and they probably wouldn't think doctor. We're chilling here in your coat and sun's hat, which is a great throwback, by the way. Just have to give you compliments for that.
Yeah.
And honestly, for me, that's very comforting, actually.
Yeah.
Because I know your skills and your education, your credentials, but it also is very, I don't know, it's calming to me in a way.
It's genuine.
To see you're a genuine person.
Yeah. I hated wearing the white coats when I was at school. So it's been like that forever. But it's like this status that you put on or you wear, and then it becomes your identity, and you get lost in it. You're like, oh, I am my thing. You'll see this sometimes with veterans in their uniforms. And it's like, oh, well, I'm still the soldier. I'm still the military man because I put on the uniform and stuff. And even though that it might not be the case in your life at that point. But, there's that whole thing about white coat syndrome and, we can't trust your blood pressure readings because you're nervous coming to the doctor. And if that's the basis for all of your healthcare settings, is that people are nervous to come see you, how much do you think they're actually telling you about what's really going on, right?
Oh, I've done that.
Because we know.
I've kept things back because I either didn't want to get into it or this or that or whatever. But
they told us in school, whatever people say about how much alcohol they drink, double it. Because people are always going to be shameful about how much they drink or what they eat. And so you always have to make it twice as worse.
It's like, how much do you drink? It's like, well, what time is it?
Yeah. And then there's like, you go to the doctor for your physical health, and you go to the psychiatrist or the counselor or therapist for your emotions and stuff. And they're tied together. You can't separate them. And we like put them in little boxes in our healthcare system. And it's just to the detriment of the person. But because at the end of the day, if you're coming in and you need help, but you don't feel safe to tell the person that you're supposed to be getting help from the actual truth about things. For one, they can't help you because they don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
But, finding that safety with people is really hard in our world.
Yeah.
And when you find it, it's really special.
100%.
And you can only have that kind of relationship with a certain amount of people in your life. And so that's kind of part of why I do this. Why I don't wear the nice clothes. For one, I don't want to wear them because they're uncomfortable. I mean, it's just...
Hey, then sure, yeah.
It's the truth. But, part of it is like, I'm not some bigger, better person than you because I have the doctorate degree and I could call myself that title. I was just thinking this morning, I'm like, man, I kind of regret going to school because it's not helping me at all. But... because I can do all this stuff, I can help people without that degree.
Yeah. So tell us so give us first kind of just a 10,000 foot overview of what it is that you do, and then we'll kind of go into how and why.
Yeah. So the way that I view the body fundamentally is that it's perfect. It doesn't make mistakes. If you get a cut on your arm, it heals itself, and you don't have to consciously do that at all. And if you go into the biochemistry of the body to the degree that you can go into it, it overwhelms you. And you get to a point where you're like, wow, there's thousands of things happening every nanosecond. How could I know anything about how to fix this thing?
Yeah.
Because it's so complex. It's God's greatest machine, right? So for me, if you truly understand that it's perfect, it's not making mistakes, it does everything for a specific purpose, then how could I ever think your body's doing something wrong and I know how to fix it? Right? That is the height of narcissism to me. It is, because it's saying your body's stupid it's not doing what it should do. So let me come in with my limited conscious mind, which is so small, and let me pluck it out because I'm going to see you for 10 minutes
Yeah.
in a doctor's office, and I know what's wrong.
Yeah.
That's crazy. It's absolutely Looney Tunes. Now, if you break your arm, the doctor can, and I'm going to go to the doctor for that. For sure.
Right. Not to like
Yeah,
say
yeah.
that modern medicine is a bad thing.
Yep.
But there's so much more than just
There's
the
so much
10-minute
more,
consult.
and we're going to try and alter your biochemistry because that's all it is. It's saying we know biochemically what's going on and why you have your pain or your discomfort, whatever it is, and we know that we can change that by altering your biochemistry.
Right.
What they failed to get at is why is the biochemistry doing that in the first place?
Not the root cause. What's the root cause? Okay.
Yep. And so for me, I view the body as bimodal. So
Yeah, explain that.
it's biochemical and it's bioelectric. So the biochemistry is what we understand really well in modern medicine.
Yeah.
Right? We could take your blood, we could tell you everything that's going on in it. That's half the battle.
Yeah.
And the way you affect that is by what you put into your body because it's all chemistry. So
Yeah.
your diet is the fundamental way you change the biochemistry aspect of the body. Other than that, it's environmental toxins, pollution, the air we're breathing, all that stuff. Now, you're really largely unable to do stuff about that, right? You can't change what they're spraying in the air.
Yeah.
You know, now you can limit your pesticide exposure and all this kind of stuff, but it's pretty static for the most part for most people.
Yeah.
The diet's where you change it. So that's half the battle. And you can just do that, work on that aspect of your health, and have a lot of changes if you do it
Yeah.
right. The other half of it, though, is we're bioelectric. So we know this by you get an MRI,
Right.
you get an X-ray. There's other ways to understand
The
and view
neural
the body.
pathways and all the electrical functions that happen in our body.
We have this field around us, which we can measure too, and it extends in about 6 feet in every direction.
Really? How do they measure that?
Technology, I don't know. That's way beyond my realm of understanding of how that works.
That's crazy though.
But it's just electronic frequencies that the body emits.
Yeah, I wish I could see that.
And so there's a field. We live in like a little encased bubble in our field.
Yeah.
And whenever your field is around another person's field, like we are right now, our fields are interacting. It's how you can catch a vibe. You can tell if somebody's safe or not, or if they have some
Yeah.
weird feel about them.
Yep.
It's because your field's picking up information. It's not just dead space in here,
Yeah.
right? And so this field, though, that we can't see is just as intricate, complex as our physical body is.
Yeah.
It's not just some empty vacuum egg thing. There's a complex anatomy to our field that we don't understand in Western world. Now, in the Eastern world, for thousands of years, Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, all this stuff,
Yeah.
they understand this.
It's fascinating.
And they think we're crazy because we don't acknowledge it.
And I mean, I don't even pretend to know everything that they talk about, chakras and energy fields and all this other stuff. Like most of it, I go, I don't know.
Yeah.
If it works. I mean, you talk about catching a vibe from somebody, and I can definitely. It's like I totally relate to that, right? But yeah. Anyway, please keep going.
Yeah.
Because it does fascinate me. I think was the point I was trying to say.
There's a point that you can't know it all, and it's a beautiful feeling to feel that you don't have to know it all at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's just like, man, I can't take care of this thing. I don't know how to make it work. I just have to not drive it into a wall kind of thing, and
Yeah.
I'm going to be good. But with this complex anatomy,
Yeah.
different cultures have their different takes of it. So there is no definitive 100% proof like we can do with taking your blood. It doesn't exist. But we have a really, really good understanding. And there is some proof that you can add in through studies and all this kind of stuff. But essentially, you have what I like to call them as interfaces.
Okay.
So we have this field of potential around us, like infinite potential energy, right? And then we have this physical body, which is completely dense. And so the potential field is no density all the way to density.
I've been called that before.
Yeah. And so to transfer that energy outside of the body into the body, the thing that powers this thing up are the chakras, these acupuncture meridian systems, and the like. And they basically put the energy from the outside inside of the body. Now, how well
That's insane.
they're able to do that, how unobstructed those channels, those interfaces are, is very indicative of how well or sick you feel in your life. So everything in health is obstructions. In the physical body, we understand this very well. If you get a blood clot, an obstruction to flow, you're going to have problems.
Right.
If you have a nerve block, because the electric energy is not really able to transfer down your nerves, you're going to have pain. It's going to be a problem.
Right.
The third pathway in the body is the lymphatic system, which is like your sewer system.
Right.
If you have a blockage in your lymphatic system, you're not able to detoxify, you're not able to get rid of the toxins, they're going to build up, you're going to have problems.
Big problems.
Very cut and dry on how this works.
Yeah.
If you have obstructions in your energy field, it's the same thing. You're going to have problems because instead of this wall outlet, like a cord plugging into your body, you can think of it that way. The cord is like the interface, the acupuncture meridian. The wall outlet is the field. It's potential. It's like infinite energy possibility, right? The machine is our bodies, and we're plugged in like a cord to the wall. Now, if it's fully unobstructed and the energy can transfer 100%, you'll feel amazing and great. But if it's blocked and you're only getting like 50%, let's say, then eventually, let's say the channel to your liver, right? So the channel to your liver is at 50% only. Well, eventually it's going to wear down and get exhausted, and it's going to cause malfunctions in time, right? Because if it's running on a 50% charge, it's not going to be able to do its job totally.
Right.
So it's like you working a 10-hour day, 7 days a week on 4 hours of sleep. How long is that going to last before you break down?
Right.
You're going to be able to do it for a couple of weeks, maybe a month or two, but eventually you're not going to be able to go anymore. You're going to be too devitalized.
Right.
And then you're going to start acting out, or you're going to get sick, or something's going to happen. And it's the same thing in the organs. So if your liver's running on 50% charge, it'll do its job because it has to. But if it doesn't get the full charge back, it's eventually going to start getting diseased. And they say, oh, you might have fatty liver disease, or you have cirrhosis, or something like that.
Right.
Or you have gallstones, whatever it is.
Yeah,
it manifests in all these different ways. But the problem is not the way it manifests. That's just the outcome. The problem is that the liver's not getting charged up for some reason. So we say, why isn't the liver getting charged up as it should? Right?
Yeah.
And that's where you can really affect people's health.
So you're basically saying that there is a direct connection between our physical, emotional, and spiritual health.
Yeah.
Am I saying?
Yep,
am I getting that correct?
Yeah.
And that by changing something within any one of those areas, it can affect the others as well.
Yeah. So
see that's fascinating to me, and so this isn't necessarily something that I prescribe to, which we had talked about, but that totally aligns with my understanding of the world, where I have seen how people's physical health can deteriorate their emotional and their spiritual health as well. The things that they take into their body and essentially the influences that they have physically can affect them in those other ways. And how by trying to live in a healthier spiritual and emotional state can physically cause differences in your body. I think there was a study, it was the rabbit study, have you heard of this? Where they basically they were testing a certain type of food on a group of rabbits, and to see how much how much their cholesterol would go up and how much fat would accumulate within all the other stuff. I'm not a doctor, so you would understand it way more than I would. But what was fascinating is that they found that half of the rabbits was way healthier. And they're like, what the heck? How is this happening? They're all being fed the same food. But what they found is that there were two different people that would feed the rabbits.
Yeah, I have heard of this, yeah.
But with one group that were healthier, the attendant would pick up the rabbits, talk to them, pet them, be super kind, and then feed them.
Yeah.
And their physical health was better.
Yeah. It's that we were talking
and
about.
And then they recreated it and then did it again, because they're like, this is groundbreaking. This idea that could possibly be true.
Yeah, I've heard of that. We were talking about physical touch right before.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Go into that. Because for everybody else, this was awesome.
Part of this is we are beings that are supposed to be connected to one another, and part of our health is dependent on that. And so in this study, they surveyed all these different young children across the world, different cultures, economic statuses, you name it.
Just totally different across the board.
And what they were trying to find was who were the kids that felt the most safe and secure.
Okay.
So what cultures did it? Was certain religions, financial status, whatever. what they found was that the most safe and secure kids were from Uganda, and one of the poorest countries in the world. But in that country, when you're a baby, the mothers hold you in a sling attached to their chest for the first 2 years of life. So they're constantly in contact with their mother. That was the
Man.
sole differentiator that allowed them to feel safe and secure compared to kids who lived in extreme wealth.
See, and that's crazy, and I totally get that, because I've noticed a difference because I'm not in the 9 to 5 anymore, right? So I'm home a ton of the time, way more than I was before, and so with my younger kids, there's been way more holding, interaction, all of that, and so we're very close. Like I can only imagine how much more
Yeah.
that would be with actually being physically in contact
Yep.
for the first 2 years. That it is such a developmental part of your life.
Yeah.
One of my kids just turned 2. And so thinking about that, I'm like, oh my gosh, like there's so much that has gone on in that time period that I could totally see that.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
bond that has been created.
Yeah. And so this goes back to, how I try and present myself and interact with the people I see is, well, if that's how important connection is, am I doing any service to somebody by being this figure and putting on a face and an act
Oh,
and
like a person,
I'm
like a
smart and all this stuff and I know these things that you don't? That gets you nowhere for them. Like that
Yeah.
doesn't help at all, right? And so the more humble or in connection you can be with the people, the more you're able to affect their lives. And it's just like in networking, right? You're never going to get somebody to give you business if they don't like you. And
Yeah,
how
and
do you
you're
get somebody to like you?
not by being more proud and like
Yep.
I'm better
You be
than you.
relatable,
Relatable.
So I get people a lot of times talking about their emotions and they're coming to me for depression, anxiety, whatever the like is. And if I was just like, oh wow, I've never experienced depression, that's
Sucks for you.
I would get nowhere with anybody.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
instead, it's like, yeah, I've been there. I know what that's like. I can relate to you. I can hold that space for you. And that does wonders for people. I sometimes think of my business. All I could do, I could just have a business where I just tell people that they're going to be okay and that they're doing fine where they're at right now, and just genuinely say that to people and mean it, and they would be like, wow, I guess I am doing okay.
What a
'cause he
breakthrough.
believes me.
See,
And they
and-
would change their lives, and I could just have a business like that.
See, that is fascinating because so one of my obsessions is the obsession of connection. How do I better comport myself to be able to connect with people? How do I listen better? Because I'm a talker. Oh my gosh, am I a talker? Which you guys obviously know. And anybody who knows me knows that I talk and talk and talk and talk. And so I have to be conscious of how much I'm talking, how much I'm listening. And obviously different situations call for
Yeah.
a different amount, right?
Yep.
But I am fascinated by others' ability to connect, because I'm sure that you've seen this when we kind of mentioned this with the picking up vibes kind of from somebody, where there are certain people where you're immediately close. Like you and I, it happened very, very fast, right? We met each other for a short amount of time. We both kind of liked how the other kind of comported themselves, as well kind of what we were both involved in. And then we met maybe 2 times, I went through a session with you, which was amazing. But then there was that closeness, right? And so I'm fascinated by one's ability to connect with other people.
Well, I think the biggest part of it is you can only connect and be as close with somebody as you are with yourself. So if you're not comfortable
I've
being
seen
with
that.
yourself, there's no way you can be comfortable having depth of a relationship with somebody else.
100%. No, I've totally seen that.
And so that's a lot of people, though, is that they're not really comfortable with who they are. They feel insecure. They're unwilling to explore their emotions. And so you talking about your emotions or me delving into your emotions, that's like danger space.
Yeah. They put up that wall, that they go into fight or flight mode, which actually was interesting. That reminds me, I can't remember what book it was. It might have been Atomic Habits. I'm not sure because I read a lot of them, but it's in the fight or flight part of our brain that is essential for our survival actually activates in social scenarios
Mm-hmm.
as well as physically dangerous scenarios.
Yeah.
So it is so interesting that can happen. That's why
Mm-hmm.
you get up into a group of people that you don't know, and all of a sudden you're stumbling over your words,
Yeah.
or you feel super insecure or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It happens to me still. I have to consciously like
Yeah.
try to overcome that.
Yeah.
But I have found that the more balanced I am with myself, if you will, the more centered, aligned that I am,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of at peace with who I am.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I could get up and start giving a seminar or whatever
Yeah.
with people that I've never met,
Yeah. Yeah.
But then on the flip side, when I'm off somehow, all of a sudden that becomes very, very difficult for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It highlights, I like how you mentioned that it activates whenever you're around people. And most people never sit alone with themselves to understand what it feels like to not have that piece of them activated anymore.
Interesting.
Because once you do get that, then you start to realize, well, you get control over how high the wall is and when you're erecting it or not. Because you do need to erect a wall around yourself, a barrier
Oh, 100%.
at certain points in time.
Yeah.
And it's not safe to go out in the world not having that. But if you don't realize when it's up and when it's down, you don't have control over it anymore. So, an important thing for people, is that they have to get alone too. There's a huge need for connection and the physical touch, like we talked about, but there's also a need to get alone so that you can actually get to that point where you're like, oh, it's actually down right now. What does it feel like when it's down? Understand that space. Sit with that space. Familiarize yourself with that space. Because you can't even do it with your spouse. It's a different level.
Yeah.
I love my spouse, all this stuff, but there's a certain level of like, I'm still not alone or I'm not with myself.
Yeah.
And I can't fully explore myself, these parts of myself that I'm uncomfortable with. If I'm uncomfortable with them with myself, I'm definitely not going to explore them with anybody else.
100%.
And so, I'm able to help people through that because I'm like, I get it.
Yeah.
I've been there. I'm still there at certain points in certain places in my life. And I know that I don't judge myself for it. I have in the past for sure, but we all go through it. So it's like, okay,
Yeah.
it's this universal thing that we all do. And I don't see it as bad or good. It just is what it is. And I don't really care about the story even because it's not about the story. It's just feelings.
Yeah.
And everybody has their different way of they express their feelings and the stories they attach to them. But at the end of the day, it's just a feeling that's stuck in the body.
Yeah.
And it's stuck in the field, it's stuck in your channel. And until you're able to release it, you'll keep experiencing it. So the way that I talk about it with my clients and the way that I see it is that we get these experiences in life like we're really young and we get an emotion and we retain it because we're not taught how to let it go correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll have to talk about an animal study in a second of how they do it. But we don't release the emotion, so we retain it. And when we retain it, the body, the field doesn't want it in there because it's unhealthy, right?
Yeah.
So what does it do to get out? And what it does is it recirculates into our life and makes us re-experience the emotion. And we say, oh, well, this time I was angry because, my dad didn't love me. And now I'm angry because somebody cut me off in traffic and they're totally not connected at all. But it's the same thing. It's just anger. Anger and say, hey, look, you're angry again. Please deal with this. Sit with me so you can let me go. And then we
Yeah.
say, no, I want to suppress you. And so it goes back into the field.
And then it comes up in some other way.
And it comes back again. And we just go through this cycle over and over again. And most people don't ever realize that it's a cycle.
Interesting.
But if you catch it and say, hey, this is anger. I felt this feeling before. I don't want to just put it back there.
Yeah.
I want to investigate this. I want to sit with this. There's an acronym called RAIN by Tessa. I can't remember her last name right now. But it's recognize. So become aware of the feeling. Allow. 'Cause that's a big thing. You have to allow it to be here.
Interesting.
Invest.
Instead of just being like, no, don't feel it,
Yep.
don't feel it. Okay.
Investigate. So that's basically what am I actually feeling? Where do I feel it in my body? What does it make me feel? What does it make me think of? And then the N is nurture. You have to love yourself. Say, hey, even though I have this feeling, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. It's like emotional freedom technique.
Yeah.
And so if you're able to do that and let go of the emotion, then it'll leave you. and it won't make you re-experience it over and over again.
Awesome.
But when that emotion over time as well, if you don't release it, it gets stronger and stronger, and it starts to obstruct
Festers
and
kind
an
of thing.
obstructed flow of energy more and more and more. And if you don't, so this is how it goes. If you don't pay attention to the emotions, it'll get stronger and something more noticeable, because we can suppress emotions real easily. So it'll go to thoughts. You'll have recurring thoughts about things. If you don't listen to the thoughts and you suppress those, it'll become physical. And it's
Wow.
basically saying, pay attention to me. If you don't pay attention to me, I'm going to get louder. And I'm going to get louder. And it'll get loud and it'll kill you eventually.
Yeah. Well, what did you say the other day when we were talking? You're like, first God throws a pebble.
Yeah, it's like, you get a little pebble thrown at you, like, please notice me. And, we don't do anything. And then it's a rock. And then it's a big stone. And it's a boulder. And then it's a mountain. And just...
and then you're
you're done.
You're buried,
Yeah.
in something that you can't get out of at that
Yeah,
point.
exactly.
Man, that I can absolutely 100% see that in myself. In one of our previous episodes with Stephanie Barreto, which you guys can check out, I'll put a link somewhere, or at least in the description that you can see. But she talks about how emotion is information.
Mm-hmm.
So whether something catches you off guard and you become angry or sad or elated, even, what that is telling you that there's something underneath that is eliciting that emotion, right?
Yeah.
And so that's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. So whenever people come and they've got problems, whether they're in the mind, the emotions, or the body, it's like, what is this trying to tell you? Right? Because it's happening for a reason. You have to understand this basis of it doesn't do anything by accident. And if you do, then you'll always be trying to fix accidents and never saying, oh, maybe it's because of something that I'm creating. Maybe unknowingly, but I'm still creating it. I'm festering in this feeling of anger all the time.
Yeah.
And I've just become so normal to it that I don't realize that I'm angry, actually. I just think this is normal now.
Yeah.
Right?
So that the biggest takeaway from me from this is, I think, rain.
Yep.
When we're feeling something, I'm going to try to repeat it back. Recognize, allow, investigate, nurture.
Yep. Yeah.
So recognize that it's there, instead of just being like, oh no, it's not connected to anything. Be like, oh no, I did feel that. Allow it, instead of shaming yourself, instead of, or ignoring it and just saying, oh no, that's not a problem, or it's not there. Actually allow it to be experienced. Investigate, kind of see where it's coming from. It's just
exploring it.
Exploring it a little bit more, and okay.
Yeah.
And then nurture, and that's where you actually like try to
How
get
do I
through
love
it.
myself
How do
through
I
this?
get over it, kind of a thing.
What
Myself.
do I need? Oh, okay, I'm feeling angry. What do I need right now?
Interesting.
Do I need somebody to lean on? Do I need, to
Alone time.
Do I need alone time? What does my soul need in this? And a lot of times is we're unwilling to do things for ourselves, which is kind of interesting. But
Yeah,
we're like,
that...
oh, I should be better. This was my big problem with all this stuff was, oh, well, I should be better than that. I should be better than this emotion of shame or, guilt. Like,
oh, I have said that exactly. Those words exactly.
Like, I could be stronger than this. And that's the biggest problem that I had, because it was like, again, like, what am I competing against?
Yeah,
right?
Yourself.
I'm competing against an imagination of what I think I should be. But in reality, we're all very needy for love and attention. Like, we need it. And if we don't get it, then we start to go crazy.
Yeah.
And that's naturally how we're built.
Yeah.
So it's in our hardwiring. And that's why the babies from Uganda are the safest and securest, right?
Man.
It's because they get the physical touch. And so we need to be a lot nicer to ourselves. And that's the end part of the rain.
No, I love that. We got to give ourselves some grace. And it's like, not that we can't actually be stronger, or not that we can't be better, but I think that it's the shame that it's attached to, I think, of that kind of mindset.
Yeah.
Because I'm all for reaching for more than we, and having that positive mindset. Oh, I can do better. I can be better. I can, et cetera.
Yeah.
But that's not what you're talking about. You're talking about that shame that we attach to it, of like, shame on you for not being stronger. But that just reinforces the cycle.
Yeah.
And then you end up spiraling down. It's like, how are we supposed to rise out of the hole that we're in if we keep knocking ourselves back in?
Yeah, exactly. With shame, and I think we talked about this last time you were here.
Yeah.
There's two different ways this goes with people, and it starts very young when you're a kid. And you either become the overachiever, so you have this shame inside, and you're like, it's not enough to be me. There's something inherently deficient. There's something wrong with me. I'm not like the other people. And because I know this, and if it gets out and everybody knows, then I'm done, right? I'm worthless then. So I have to keep this a secret. And I'm probably going to tuck it so far into my subconscious that I forget that this is even a thing right now. But in order to cover that up, I have to be the overachiever. I have to get the gold stars. I have to be the best at what I do. And it's always doing something to validate your approval of yourself.
Interesting.
And so you either go that way, or you go the total opposite way and you say, oh, I'm worthless. Yeah, I guess I am.
So,
And I'm just
screw it.
And I'm screw it. And I'm just going to do nothing with my life. I'm going to be depressed and lay on the couch all day. Most people go the overachieving route.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to grasp out of it, right? It's like, please, I don't want to fall into this. So let me get out of it. But because we're not taught as kids, we go and we try and fix it the wrong way by doing things instead of feeling it.
Yeah.
And sharing what we're feeling with others. Instead, we try and isolate it. Say, I'm the only one that's feeling this. So I have to, I'm like a mutant alien in this world.
Man.
Because we don't talk about this in our culture.
How lonely.
And it's extremely lonely. And so when people go through this shame, you're exactly right. It's this thing of like, oh, well, I should have been stronger than to feel insecure when this happened when I was a kid, whatever it is. And then it just builds and builds and builds and builds. And then especially for men in this culture.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's a masculine trait, is like this overachieving thing or whatever.
I gotta be tough. I gotta be strong.
Yep.
Otherwise, I'm inferior to all other men.
Yep.
Man. And that, in my mind, the way I see that is just like, where did that come from? The epitome of a man, in my mind, is Jesus. That guy is the man. But everything, and no matter what anybody's culture belief system is, he was the Son of God, this ultimate power that he had. If anybody deserved to show himself, or seemingly deserved to or I guess I should say, if anybody, if it was understandable for anybody to be superior, it would be him.
Yeah.
But he was meek. He was humble. He was kind. He loved children.
Yeah.
He was, shared emotions with his followers and all these other things. And like, that is like the epitome of a man in my mind. And it's like, who are we to think that we should be different than that in my mind?
Yeah.
Like, why would we? Why would we be anything other than those things? And I'm all for being strong. I'm all for being resilient and being there for people and providing all this other stuff. That's great. But what about the other side of what it means to be a man in our case, right?
Yeah.
Of that kindness, of that meekness, in my mind, is kind of a control over the power that we have.
What really did it for me to understand this point was going through it and realizing, man, the most brave I could be right now is to sit with these feelings I don't want to sit with. That's actually the most courageous thing to do. It would be easy to suppress this right now.
Yeah.
And so once I realized within myself, oh, actually it takes the most courage to face this stuff, then if you understand that, then when you look at people going through emotions or they're sharing with you, then you realize that they're big strong. And you're like, yeah, that's great, man. Like, let's talk about it. Let's go through it. Because it's like you're doing this superhuman thing of processing emotions through your body, where the other people, the weak people, would just suppress it and do something else and distract themselves. So for me, I view it as the exact opposite as most of the world sees it.
Awesome.
I'm like, it's the toughest thing you could do.
Yeah.
And it's really the only reason you're here in the first place.
To learn.
to learn and process the emotions out anyway.
To elevate ourselves higher than our most basest attributes.
Yeah. It's like you can't be courageous unless you are fearful. Because you can't.
Because otherwise, what are you
because then
overcoming?
You're just being neutral. But courageous takes to be courageous, it takes a baseline of being in fear in the first place. because it's overcoming the fear is what courage is.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. And I think that more often than not in our society, people view depression, anxiety, all these other things. They're like, oh, it's just in your head. It's like, well, yeah, it is, but so is a brain tumor.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that I shouldn't take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean I should treat it. Doesn't mean that I should do everything that I can to get rid of it.
Yeah.
You know, so that's like the worst thing that anybody could possibly say when someone's going through a hard time. Oh, it's just in your head.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, don't use it as an excuse to ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
Use that as a reason to do whatever it is that you need to get through that. So that absolutely awesome. Oh my gosh. I feel like I have learned so much from this episode and just been so amazing, and definitely some things that I needed to hear for myself. So thank you so much for being on. I just absolutely really appreciate that. And for all of you guys, please, if you're going through something, talk to somebody about it. If you need time to yourself, you need to be okay with taking a break from all of the busy things that you have that you are doing. And remember, and I'm going to try to say this right, if you're going through something, remember RAIN, recognize it, allow it, investigate it, and then nurture. Take care of yourself. You're the only one that can take care of those things really at that basic level. And so take care of yourself. And the more you do, the more you can have, the more of you there is for everybody else to enjoy and love. Remember, I love you. And remember, bridges are built from two sides, and no one succeeds alone. Talk to you on the next.